This is First Things Foundations. Why are we talking about rabbits? Today, Brother Peter Heers on WAWTAR. First of all, thanks for coming on. This is our First Things Foundation podcast. Why are we talking about rabbits? Rabbits run down the rabbit holes and then on the internet and reproduce and create all kinds of problems. So we're like, well, let's talk about, I don't know, heavy things, but maybe lightly. So you're a heavy thing these days. You know why I think? Well, we'll get into it, but it's because you do really, really detailed and heavy work. And then you share it. But I have a first question for you. Will you do the Lidometer Test?
You know, there's always a second time for everything. Let's do it.
You did it a while back, didn't you?
It's been a long time. I think we need another one.
We're going to start with heavy things lightly and some questions for you. You ready?
Do it.
We're going to add stuff up. I've got a pen. I think
it's a very scientific experiment. I know
this is a scientific experiment. Yeah. It's designed in a lab at MIT, and it helps to define.
Isn't everything in MIT? Isn't everything designed in a lab at MIT? I mean,
yeah, everything. The water I'm about to drink was designed at MIT. Yes. I do this because on our talks on WAWTAR, we do Old World, New World. And for a lot of people, like if I were to do this in Sierra Leone, they would be like, I don't know what New World is. I don't know what you're talking about. And a lot of people in our New World here in America, modernity, they don't know the context. They don't know the history. So this is a test to find out where you stand, Old World, New World. And if people are looking at you on YouTube, because some people are listening on the interwebs, but if you're actually looking at the person I'm talking to named Father Peter Heers, you already know, well, you would think his score is going to be very Old World, because I know you're not a Muslim because you are my brother. But I know when you go to Walmart.
Is that the only reason why you know? Is that the only reason why you know I'm not a Muslim?
I believe you to not be a Muslim.
You remember that we grew up together and
yeah, we've broken bread and windows together. So here's and cars. You broke a car once. Remember when you broke Dad's car? I remember that.
Yeah.
You were with Mark Williams and you turned too fast. Also, you didn't have a driver's license. That's another story. So here's the deal. This test is going to help place you on this continuum of Old World, New World. You ready?
Let's do it.
It's science. I want everyone who's nervous about the accuracy to be at peace. This is science. When you die, you won't really be sort of all the way dead. It's more like you'll be sleeping and waiting for some sort of next life. If you strongly agree with that statement, that's a 3. If you agree, 2. If you disagree, 1. And if you strongly disagree, it's a 0. When you die, you really won't be kind of like dead all the way. It's more like you'll be asleep and waiting for something like the next world.
That's a 3+.
3+.
Can you get a 3+? Yeah.
3+. Okay, great. We'll get back because when we get the number,
because I believe in the resurrection. Okay. Anyway.
Right. It's the resurrection. When we get back to when we get your answer, you're not really important right now. It's just the number. That's all that matters. In the reign of quantity, we just want to turn you into a number. Can we just do that, please? Stop being human.
Transform Father Peter into a number. Here we go.
Yes. We're going to make you a number, or if you prefer a barcode, we can do that. Question number 2.
I'd rather stay away from barcodes.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2. So far, so good. The best way for you to know yourself is to ask someone else about you, or the best way for me to know myself is to ask someone else about me. 3, strongly agree. 2, agree. 1, disagree. 0, I strongly disagree with that statement.
I don't remember this question. Have you changed the test?
I would never. It's science. I don't just.
It's science. I guess 2. I don't remember this question. Okay, 2.
You agree that generally the best way.
I don't.
for me to
It's a
know
trick
myself is to
like
ask.
I feel like I'm tricked. This is a trick question, but I don't know.
Don't fear. Don't fear. You wrote a book about that. Okay,
true.
you ready? Question number 3. I like that. The best way. We can talk about it if you want, but I don't just want to get your number and move on. So I'm kidding. But question 3, when you carry a picture of someone, it's someone you love. Let's say it's in your wallet, or I don't know, it's on your dashboard of your car. When you carry a picture, a representation of someone you love in your purse or your wallet, you're actually closer to that person. It's like that person's kind of around. They're close to you. 3, strongly agree. 0, strongly disagree.
That's probably a 2.
2. Everyone's listening, going, "Oh my God!" I mean, what does that mean?
See, there needs to be like a line underneath, like explain yourself. But maybe we can do it at the end.
This is the best part. Is in science we don't do nuance. Figure it out. Give the number. Jeez, you're that guy in the SAT test who's like, "Well, there are 3 options that are unspoken here." That's your problem. That's probably why you didn't score well.
Sorry, forgive me. I'm not a modern man. This is part of being not a modern man. I want nuance, but it's not allowed.
Well, I don't know. We're gonna see. When I give you your number and tattoo it on you, then you'll have it, and you'll have it forever, and you'll know. Question 4, Father Peter. Respect isn't earned. Respect is owed by you to others.
Yes. 3.
3. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And number 5. After this, we'll have clarity on your being. Your very being will have been clarified. Number 5, here it is. I hope, well, okay, there's 2 ways to ask this question. I hope and expect to take my parents in and have them live with me when they're old and infirmed. Our parents have reposed. So another way to ask, I fully expect to live near my kids, even preferably in their home when I get old and infirmed.
That's a 3. That's a 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to add up your numbers. That's 9 plus 2 is 11. I have your number. You have scored a 13 on the Lidometer. You're the villager.
Yes.
There's a good chance that you hate malls. Places like Algeria, Ethiopia, Greece, not New World Greece, Old World Greece. The Byzantine Empire rolls out the red carpet for you. Your Spotify collection includes chants.
That's all it includes.
I got it. I told you it's science. And you wish there was more hierarchy in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the villager. Father Peter has been properly placed in the world.
It's true. In fact, for the longest time, I was podcasting from a Greek mountain village. So this is science, folks. This is it.
So don't run it down. The guys at MIT that I work with, they put this together, and here we are. I like that test. If you hadn't
said MIT, I would doubt this. But since you said MIT, I believe this is true.
By the way, through all of that, I wore my brewer hat. Can I take it off now? Can I just be a regular? I wanted to honor Mom.
I'm old world, man. So you could have taken it off a couple minutes ago. So.
I know you said I look like a clown, but I put it on to honor Mom in WAWTAR.
Yes,
WAWTAR.
We had 2 stints in Wisconsin, which is really quite amazing. 2 stints.
Who, me?
We had
our
as
family.
A family we were Delavan and then WAWTAR was of course the
I just want to say this, and people in Wisconsin, I'm sorry. I don't feel like I'm from Wisconsin, though. I feel like I'm from New York. That's maybe something about us. Do you feel like you're from anywhere? Let's be honest.
I do, actually. When people ask me, like, what kind of Orthodox are you? Are you Greek Orthodox? Are you Russian Orthodox? I say I'm Athonite Orthodox. That's my adopted home is Halkidiki of modern northern Greece. But that's just because I want it to be that. It's not because I think the locals there would say, nah, you're not. But it's I kind of want to be. So I'm a wannabe how Kitty Key, Mount Athos, you know.
It's a longing, yeah, which is a beautiful longing. I weirdly have that.
You've been there. You've been there. You and you came for my wedding. You came for my wedding with presbytera was 23 years ago. Remember
I know. I sent representatives back in my place, like Daniel, who got baptized. You got him into Mount Athos in a way where he got baptized. Daniel works for First Things. He got baptized. And did you know that when they baptized him, wait, why am I asking you? You're like all things Athonite. But can I tell you what happened to him? He got baptized, and then he's just some joker working in America. He's my dear friend. They baptized him, and then for 2 days, all the monks would venerate him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's
not
true.
the cross. They would come up and kiss him.
Yeah. Took his blessing because he had the grace of the mystery.
Isn't that awesome?
Yep.
I was there. That really fundamentally changed how he understood.
We probably should say he was baptized. That's how he was received into the church. He was catechized in Africa, wasn't he?
Yeah. So, right. You got it. He was catechized in Africa with Father Themi, and somehow
Bishop Themi now.
Bishop Themi, correct.
Yeah.
And he was
Sierra Leone.
Yeah. And I know Africa did that to him too. It did it to me too in its own spiritual way. But yeah, the teachings and of course his reception was all coming through Bishop Themi and then Athos.
By the way, we got to go back to Athos, John. I mean, you haven't been there in 23 years, right? You always fly over Athos, but you don't actually stop on the way to Georgia.
Terrible. It's terrible because I go to Georgia. I'm going tomorrow. Did you know that?
You're leaving tomorrow? Yeah. I remember that.
It's terrible.
I need to go along on one of these trips. I went to Georgia too. I love that place. It's wonderful.
Can I tell a quick story about you?
Yeah.
Before you were going to Georgia, which I thought was the coolest thing ever because I've been adopted by that place, you were asking me questions. You don't remember this. It was like 216 or whatever, 217.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you're kind of like a total Athonite nerd and everything. And I trust you to teach me. But in this case, I was your teacher and you're like, well, just tell me, how's it going to go? And I said, you're going to recognize it's really old school, traditional, and you'll love and then when you drink, just make sure that you're paying attention and say the toast and say Gagi Marjos. And you were like, no, I'm going with a bunch of monks and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know. But you're going to do toasts and they're going to drink wine. You're like, no, you don't. You're just such a pagan, dude. You don't understand. We're traveling with like bishops. I was like, yeah, okay. Trust me. You're going to do toasts. You're like, we're not doing that.
You don't even know you don't know how much wine was served up at the monasteries I went to by the bishop.
I told you.
I was like, okay, this is like the third glass. I don't know if I can do it. It's like, can we stop now?
I told you. And I kept saying, do you remember when you said
winery? The monastery had a winery. It was like endless. We walked into this room. It was like a wine tasting. like nobody. They don't like New York City doesn't have anything better than this wine tasting monastic room that I went to. It was amazing.
I told you, man. And do you remember? You were like, whatever. This guy's all he thinks about is wine. I'm like, okay. And you called me. You were like, these guys are toasting.
Yeah.
I actually knew something you didn't know. It was great.
Well, we went from one place. We were at the monastery of this bishop. And then like a couple of days later, we were again with the same bishop at another monastery. We were just up the road from the patriarch's house, right? So the patriarch had us as a special guest at his house up in the mountains. But right next to that village is this famous monastery. And so the same bishop that had welcomed him to his monastery is now there. And again, he rolls out all the wine. It's like, it's not even his monastery, right? He told the monks, come on, it's like, you have to drink wine. Otherwise you're being impolite. You're not being hospitable.
It's really, really true. And if you fight it, it's a bit of an offense. Some of our field workers fought against it because it's often too much. It's really
you're just not used to it. You're not used to it.
Yeah. But the goal is not to get drunk. It's
no.
It's honor.
No. And of course their levels
exactly
way higher than somebody like so. But yeah, no, it was really beautiful. I love it.
Good. We're on the same. But you got adopted by Greece and it's fed you and I got adopted by this other country that fed me. So we're
So
sitting
definitely
here.
Wisconsin is not our identity. Although I did appreciate my time in Wisconsin. I was there twice actually, for my childhood, right? For up to like 10 years old, we left, or at 9. And then I came back for college.
Yeah, you went back for college. That's right.
So I owe a lot to Wisconsin, even though I can't say that it totally, was hugely important in my formation, but thank God. Maybe it was in a way. Maybe it's University of Wisconsin-Madison is like the Berkeley of the Midwest. So I kind of negatively I was negatively formed there by reacting to the extreme leftist wokeism that was already there, like in 1991 when I was in the university. It was all there.
You protested a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can I talk about that? Look at your face is like, oh boy, I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I can talk about it. Sure. My
kids spent a little time in the pokey. Didn't you spend a little time?
When I would tell my kids the first time, your father went to jail, they'd be like, oh my God,
what? Your kids.
My kids are always shocked. My wife was, presbytera was like, don't say that. They don't know what you. I said,
you gotta say.
I'll explain it. I just gotta.
Like, were you cuffed? Did you get cuffed? Because didn't you like sit down?
So I was a part of the so-called Operation Rescue, which would have been like I don't know, what would it be today? It was the avant-garde of the pro-life movement. We were going to sit in front of abortion clinics, saving babies' lives from imminent death. And we had actually a number of women that we helped not kill their unborn babies and bring them to term. And we had, we worked with the pregnancy, centers that help people not to do that and support them. But anyway, that's what I was doing. I was doing on college campuses, and I actually organized something called CALL, Collegians Activated to Liberate Life. CALL.
That's
we went all around the Midwest.
Start that?
Yeah, I started that. Yeah.
You like starting.
And we had a team of 5 people that quit college for a year. We lived all together in a house, and we organized conferences and sit-ins in front of abortion clinics, and had speakers come in. It was really quite an awesome year, I have to say. But then I actually didn't go back to college after that
because you were in jail. I remember Mom called me and she's like, "He's in jail. He has an orange jumper."
That was an amazing experience for me. Like, I was put in this high security prison for a day because I was just, it's just a $70
straight.
fine.
They're trying to.
It's a $70 fine. I mean, but then they started upping the ante because they wanted to stop all the protests in front of abortion clinics. This is when there was the height of like pro-life activism. I think from that point on, it just kept going, dying down. But
yeah.
So, but it was an amazing experience to be for a day in that environment. It taught me a lot. I was in a jail in Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Oh, it was Milwaukee.
We sat in front of abortion clinic in Milwaukee. This is 1991.
91. How old are you? Lord, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, this was before I was Orthodox. So, but I'll never forget this experience. I was in this common jail cell waiting, whatever they do. They send people to different places. And we had heard in the morning on the way to the abortion clinic that there was a shooting where 3 people were killed. It was a gang violence. And we heard about this. And then the guy was caught and brought into our jail cell. And he was bragging about killing these other gang members.
Wait, was it a general lockup? Like everyone's in the same room?
It's a room that everybody goes in before they get sent to wherever they're going, I guess. I don't really know.
Were you guys cuffed up? Did they cuff you inside?
No.
So you guys could have had a hug out? Did you guys hug it out?
I'm a 19-year-old, like, impressionable kid from, a nice family, right? So I'm in this.
Yeah, you would have been called soft. Yeah, and you
slightly. I'm underneath one of these tables because everybody, it's so packed in there. You got to just find some place to sit down on the ground.
So you went
underneath the table, and I'm listening to the guy brag about killing other people, and it's seared into my memory the inhumanity of it all. And it was just it was amazing experience for a 19-year-old. Really,
that is
the life and death nature of things, right? How truth and false, all of that was just seared into my brain, my consciousness of
How did the under the table part
matter.
go? Did people say like, who's the kid? Who's the soft kid under the table?
Well, there were a lot of people in the room. They didn't take any notice of me. Thank God. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mom was not too happy about that. And then weren't you like we'll just leave it at this.
She came to our Notre Dame. We had a big Notre Dame week-long thing at Notre Dame. We sat in at the president's office demanding Notre Dame do something about the abortion clinic on the edge of their campus, because all these Roman Catholics. Of course, I was then at the time I was with Roman Catholics. I was thinking about becoming Roman Catholic at the time.
Yes,
I didn't even know about Orthodoxy. So I remember Mom was really scared when she came to this, because there were these Jesuits from the Legions of Christ, whatever it's called, in Boston. They came to recruit, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, they're going to try to recruit my son,"
boy.
and they did actually try to recruit me.
Well, why not? You're trying to recruit people on Orthodox ethos is recruiting people.
well, not in that way. This was a little like, these guys walk in, they're like SS agents or something. I mean, the way they're dressed, and they come in, they're super intimidating. They're not like, "Hey, how you doing?" It's more like,
but they don't say, "Do you accept Jesus into your heart?" Like, they're taking you all the way to some chrismation stuff, right?
You become, part of their brotherhood or whatever, and you serve Christ in that way.
Why didn't you do that?
Legionaries, the legionaries of Christ. That's what it was called.
Why didn't you do it, you think? How come you're not Catholic today?
The whole ethos, I don't think I would have used the word back then, but the whole ethos was just so off-putting. I said, "Oh gosh, no, I'm not interested in that." And Mom didn't realize it. She thought I would get sucked into it. Like, no, there's no chance. No, there's no way I'm going to do that. No.
You know where I was? I was in Africa drinking palm wine with Muslims.
I think you were in 1991.
Mali, yeah. You want to know something else? Is I wrote a letter home about that same time, handwritten letter that takes like 2.5 months. And I mentioned in my letter that I was going to watch the Super Bowl with the Marines.
I remember that.
Because Peace Corps often would hang out with them. They had a nice house, big TV screen. We were living in mud huts. And the letter finally got home. And then 2 months later, or like 5 months later, I got a letter back from her. And it was a screed of like, "I know that you're there, and I know that you're alone, and there's so many people that want to teach you. But whatever you do, do not join with the Moonies." And I was like, "Join with the Moonies?"
What?
And because the letter was like from 5 months ago, I was like, why does she think I'm joining the Moonies? So if people don't know who the Moonies are, it's like a Korean Christian sect or something. I don't know what it is. And so for like a month, I'm like, why in the world does she think I'm joining the Moonies? Because my handwriting was bad. And so when I said I'm going to see the Super Bowl with the Marines, she thought it was like the Moonies trying to like suck me in.
Well, it's also possible that she just read it that way because that
was our mother. Yeah. So that's a question, actually. How do you square the idea that here you are, Orthodox priest, and this is really a question for all Orthodox priests who truly believe, as I do, that the church is the ark of salvation. We can go on and on. You believe, but a heretic raised you. I love it. You were raised by like and they were like hardcore heretics. No offense to Episcopalians. I'm just using the word for comic effect. Maybe they're not heretics. That's kind of the question. You had these heretics teaching you over and over again all these ideas about the church, and still look at you. How do you square that? These Episcopalians, these Episcopagans, they raised you.
Episcopagans. I've never heard that. Nowadays, that might stick actually. But so I think that what the Lord said about the truth is the key to this whole thing. So the Lord said, "Know the truth, and the truth will set you free." So the love of the truth is what inspires people to sacrifice and to live, for the other world. And I think our parents had that, and I think that's what led them to Orthodoxy ultimately. So, of course, the Holy Spirit is working throughout all creation and is working among everyone to bring them to Christ. So it's not that they didn't have the Holy Spirit. They didn't have it internally. They didn't have it through the mysteries. They weren't initiated into the body, but they were being guided in so much as they loved the truth, and they loved the Holy Spirit, which is the truth, right? The truth, the Spirit of truth. They were being guided by God Himself toward the light And so that's why eventually they were able to, sacrifice, because it was a big sacrifice to become Orthodox, right? There were a lot of, I remember the bishop at the time when they became Orthodox, this is 1992, the whole parish became Orthodox, about 150 people. And the bishop was saying at the time that this is a backwater religion and these people are, leaving behind the forward-thinking, Episcopal Church, blah, blah. There was a lot of people who were against them and pressuring them. So you don't do that without having been solidified in the love of the truth, right? That you don't sacrifice all that. So I think that's the key for everyone who comes to the church. Ultimately, it's that they cannot rest until they find rest in the truth, the whole truth, who's Christ.
So it's like a motorboat, and the motor is sort of this desire for fullness, and then it kind of leads you to the ark. In the ark.
Yeah, and they taught us, Mother at least taught us, I think Father taught us too as well, Father Gregory, but Mother was the one who's talking to us all the time. They taught us to search and love the truth, even on the ideological plane.
Even like playing Monopoly or sitting at the dinner table and just wanting to know if the 49ers were going to win, like that. I mean, or like, I'm going to be a Jet fan and that wasn't the truth. Like,
yes,
it was everything.
Now, some might say that's her Greek roots that brought her back, but
I think so.
It's also,
I think it might
part of that.
That's a mystical conversation. Maybe we can have it. There is something in that, right? The genes aren't neutral. There's something about them. I think they do have some meaning. I don't know what it is, but very
well. The scriptures say that the virtues and the sins of the fathers are visited to the fourth generation.
Wow.
If that's not a testimony to the impact of the love or lack of love of truth to the people who come after you, I don't know what is. It's right there in scripture. So plays a role.
And when you apply that in a really simple way and just think about your own life, it's fundamentally true. I see it with my girls. I see it. Yeah, man. And that really humbles you.
It's not just nurture. It's nature. They're both, it's both and.
Yeah.
It's always both and.
So people want to know, I want to know too, how's it going with your ecclesiological standing these days? How would you summarize where you are right now?
I think you want to say ecclesiastical.
Yeah. What did I say? Ecclesiological?
Yeah. That would point to like my teaching on the church or something.
Okay. How about your ecclesiastical standing? Why do I come off as the dummy? That is the really true. I am like a dork.
You're the older brother. You always have the upper hand, man. Don't worry about it. Don't have a complex. You're doing well.
That's totally what I got. Oh my goodness. Okay. With your ecclesiological, how are you doing ecclesiastically? Where are you on May?
Well, not much has changed. I mean, even though the Assembly of Bishops put out a statement, it doesn't really change anything. It's just a restatement of what Church Abroad said 5 months ago. And as I've said, I think repeatedly, and everybody who knows the situation says the same thing. This is a decision of the bishops, by the bishops, for the bishops, and they have to solve it. Like, it's not a priest decision. And I've done everything I can as a priest to try to solve it. But it was a decision, initially, if you want to go back to the all the documentation that's been put out by Patrick Craig Chulia on his Orthodox Christian Theology website, which he went to the source there in Jordanville and got all the documentation. And I'm privy to all the documentation as well. So I can confirm that he's quite accurate in his analysis. And that is, it's all right there that this was a decision by the Church of Abroad of Bishops. And I'm waiting for this to be solved by bishops. I'm not going to get into the details because it's very complicated, that's the basic reality. And we have to be patient, but there's the Assembly of Bishops referred to me as archpriest and the Church Abroad as archpriest. And of course, nobody doubts that I'm a priest in good standing in the sense of my priesthood is inviolate. I've never been even disciplined, let alone suspended or defrocked. So the question is simply how quickly we can resolve the paperwork between the various bishops
being received
are involved.
Tell me if I'm right. As I subscribe to OE, and I am I love you, air quotes, as a person in my life on the internet, but I love you as my brother. So from somebody who's not really watching everything, it's like, is he got a bishop or not? Is he in or out? And as I understand it, you have bishops. You probably have too many bishops, and they're trying to figure out who gets you. And it feels like you were heading toward ROCOR. You paperwork demonstrates that, and then no, it stopped. And so we're waiting for some answers about which bishop's going to take you.
Yeah, it's unclear exactly why. I mean, we can speculate why they decided that my reception into ROCOR was unacceptable at some point. I was received in January of 21, and by the Metropolitan, signed to the Monastery of Holy Trinity, and until September, there was no mention of any issues. And then September, all of a sudden, there's this document. He's not to be received, and the response was, "Well, he's already received. What are you talking about?" So anyway, the whole history starts. But we've been trying to solve it within ROCOR for over a year, and now with another bishop. And there's things that are totally out of my control. I can't do anything about them. So I just have to be patient and wait.
And I can say one last thing before I ask you this next question. Mm-hmm. I watched you struggle with this. I watched you withhold lots of information because you don't want to make things worse. And ironically, sometimes things get worse even when you don't talk about it. It's really a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I really felt your struggle during all this. But of course, you still like to talk about truth. And so OE does its thing. And I think most people are thankful. I think walking to the back of any church and there's some bearded young dude standing there who knows about you, knows about Pajot, he knows about Father Josiah. They're there for lots of good reasons. And for me, I'm just going to say it like this, and this is not you talking, and I did not tell you I was going to say this, but I'm going to say it. If somebody's walking into a place that I consider beautiful and filled with lots of joy and potential gifts that go for eternity, and they're walking in there because they want to be there, that's like 90% of the conversation. You can do the 10%. I'll fight you about stuff. I'll even fight you about stuff. They come in with certain preconceptions. This isn't right. That's not right. Baptism. We can talk about all that. Those dudes are standing there. And I got no problems with that. Like,
I think we should give thanks. Yeah, let's give thanks. And if we got problems, we can discuss it. One of the things that's really sad to me, and this has been going on for years, but it's just this particular discussion just accentuates it, is that there's very little serious face-to-face brotherly dialogue. And I've always welcomed it. I welcome it today. I mean, people got issues, whatever. Let's talk about it. But I think we're all Orthodox. We're all working toward the same end. And there needs to be. This is the beauty of the Orthodox Church. We're not papal Protestants. We're not Reformed Protestants. We don't have, whatever I say goes, or whatever the Pope or the Patriarch says goes. There's neither of those in the Orthodox Church. The body of the body of Christ is, discusses and debates and then comes to a conclusion. It's not just one portion of the church that's involved in this. It's the whole body together. We bear one of those burdens, and we, fulfill the law of Christ. So, the fact that people are becoming Orthodox, coming back to the church, we've got, I don't know if you saw this, we've been posting, or the team has been posting it, because the team is, Orthodox Ethos is not just Father Peter. It's a big team. We've got a bunch of people full-time now. We've got a lot of people part-time. We've got a lot of volunteers in the dozens. So it's not whatever comes out of Orthodox Ethos, most of it's not done by me anymore. It's done by a team, and they don't always consult me what they're putting online. So, which is fine, because we have a great relationship. But my point is that they put online just a couple of days ago about 150 letters and testimonies that people sent in, because people wanted to say what Orthodox Ethos has meant to them. If you read those, you see that there were people who were basically ready to leave the church who didn't. There were people who were far from the church who came back. There were people who were never Orthodox who found Orthodoxy through Orthodox Ethos. Mm-hmm. And generally 98% of the people writing in are saying, OE brought me and kept me in the church, which means in parishes around the world. It's not in the OE is just serving the church and serving the parishes and serving the priests. So there's this. I want to push back against this narrative or this line of thinking that we're divisive and we're taking people away from parishes. I think that the witness of these 150 people, which are just a small portion, actually shows the opposite. That we've been working tirelessly to build the church.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be disagreements and there's going to be problems. I mean, COVID was very divisive. The whole thing was very divisive. It wasn't any particular person dividing anyone. It was the nature of the whole, 3 years. It was very divisive because there were radical things happening and differences of opinion. But so, yeah, I think that that's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of people who are interested in Orthodoxy right now. The fact that we're up to 45,000 subscribers on YouTube, it blows my mind. I never thought we'd get anywhere near like that number. I mean, I didn't think about the numbers, but when I think about it now, I'm like 45,000. We started 3 years ago with 4,000 or something. So it's people that are searching. It's not that we're, marketing strategy. We just post stuff. People are searching. People want to become Orthodox.
But do this for me, because look, like I know you, man. We played stickball together in those tennis courts, and we wouldn't let you play, us older guys, and then you would. It's not like you went, okay, guys, I really respect that. You had a few arguments. You'd be like, this is garbage. So I know you. So let's just go back to those same guys that come in.
You were mean. And I
was
told
mean.
Mom,
I was very arrogant toward you.
I have arrogance. Hang out with you. I was the little brother. I remember all that. It's very problematic.
Can I say I battle arrogance, probably some lust, and I think you're the impatience guy, which was Dad, right? Dad was impatient. Let's just be honest. If we're battling something, I think we all are by definition as in our faith. You got a little impatience. I think so, but I got it too. So here's my question. Here come the men and women, but mostly men. Here they come. I can picture them, dude. I travel a lot. I was just in Minneapolis. When I sat down, what do you think happened? It was cool. Like, oh, Father Peter, oh, I know your podcast too. And generally men, generally under 40, generally talking about cool stuff like St. Maximus. And then mentioning your name or mentioning Father Josiah, Jonathan Pageau. So hold on though. But like if everyone in the room there at that parish in Minneapolis, or if everyone when I was in Los Angeles, if everyone in the room say had a microphone, those 4 guys I was talking to, their microphone is really loud. Like they just have a louder presence in that, 200 person parish. I'm just telling you. And sometimes they're not right, and loud. And it puts a lot of pressure on the priests. They might get 10 things right, 8 things right. And then the 2 things that are really kind of like, dude, calm down. They're still loud in the parish. What would you say to, I've had priests tell me, come on, man, tell them to just tone it down a little bit. What would you say to all that?
Well, I think that I just got off the phone with somebody like an hour ago. We had the same discussion. And that is the work of OE now is reaching a point where there's just a lot online. Like it wasn't this case 2 years ago. We have 7 lecture series. We've got hundreds and hundreds of excerpts. We've got all these reels now, like in the hundreds. There's just a ton of material online. So if you're going to really understand and the impact of OE, and you're going to have to spend some time, and you're going to see that if you do spend time, you're going to see that these kind of things are addressed all the time in our question and answer session, and excerpts of that are put online. If you're in the actual community of OE, we have a question and answer session every Thursday. And a lot of times I'm telling people like you're describing to me how to follow the saints and in humility and in patience to live out your salvation in the midst of all these challenges or all these differences and whatever. And I'm keeping them from the temptation on the right. I've got all kinds of material online which says don't go to the temptation on the right, which is the rigorism and the zealotry not according to knowledge, which doesn't necessarily apply just to the question of ecclesiology, but to the method. like how we interact with priests, how we interact with bishops, how we acquire the Orthodox ethos. I mean, we named the thing Orthodox ethos precisely because the problem today is not just dogmatic. It's really a question of acquiring the way of Christ. So what you're addressing there is, how do these young men who come in headstrong ideologically, like they're identifying with Orthodoxy, they're embracing Orthodoxy. That's great, but that's as I say to the group, I say, look, the dogma and all these things are like the fence around the house. You don't spend all your day hanging around at the fence. You live in the house, and in the house, you've got to go deep and live in personal relationships. The whole point of the rest of it is to keep you in the mandra, the sheepfold, right? You don't go hang out on the boundaries. Don't serve any purpose if that's all you live for. If that's what you think Orthodox is. In other words, to become Orthodox is not to just adopt the creed. It's not to just confess the faith. That's the purpose of that, is to then bring you into a relationship with Jesus Christ, and you grow in trust and humility and all the virtues. And if you don't make progress in that, it's kind of stillborn. It's like, why did you become Orthodox?
Clanging cymbal.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of attempts to answer this for them, but what the nature of things online is controversy. People, there's a lot of people who just want controversy. They want a debate, or they want to point out, if they don't like what we're doing, they want to point out like our weak spots or the points that they don't agree with. And so usually what people who aren't following the work, usually what they get is those kind of things, which are divisive, right? Yeah. But it's not, you can't really do justice to the whole thing if you don't look at the whole picture. And I just would say, look at the whole picture.
As a Greek, let's just put it this way. You really adopted Greek. Your kids speak Greek, and I love it. I when I'm in your home, it feels Greek to me. No offense to, well, why would there be an offense?
No offense taken. I'm happy about that.
It's Greek. Do you ever get nervous you don't know America? Because you ever get nervous your circle is those same people who tend to reinforce the same ideas? Or because if you're really touching all those people, dude, and you are, I know non-Orthodox people that know a lot about what you're doing, and that's probably the majority of your listeners.
You know what? Let me just say this, because I was blown away. We did a survey of our YouTube crowd, right? 45,000 people. Of course, not everybody answered, like 3,000 or 4,000 answered, but you get a sense of what. And 65% of them were non-Orthodox. I was blown away. I was like, I expected it to be like 30% non-Orthodox. So 65%.
Do you get who they are? Do you wonder? Do you understand who these people are?
Judging from the conversations I had, which are, that I end up having with people or exchanges, a variety of people. There's not like one group that's predominant. I think we have people who are agnostics who are becoming Orthodox. We have people who are Roman Catholics. A lot of Roman Catholics now are turning to Orthodoxy. It's a wide variety of people with all kinds of different.
Do they feel like country people that are generally hanging around?
No, I wouldn't.
Socioeconomically, are they rich? Are they poor? I'm not saying.
I would say,
if you don't know, you don't know. But do you? I
would say the vast majority of them are middle class, who've been through a lot, like they're war torn people. To get to Orthodoxy, they had to go through a lot, so they're carrying a lot of baggage. We all are, though. We all are. And they're coming to Orthodoxy because they want to be healed. That's the majority of them.
One of my favorite OE moments. Can I just ask you, can you give me a blessing to do pilates or Pilates? Am I allowed to do Pilates? Yeah. Also, Jack LaLanne is a favorite guy I like to follow and exercise. Is that allowed? Is that too close to yoga? That's all I want to know.
These are the questions you get, because we did one on yoga. So everybody said, well, it's Pilates. I don't even know how you say it.
No, because you kept calling it pilots, and they're like, I think it's not pilots. You're like, I don't know what pilots is.
I don't know what that is. That's how much I'm clueless. I don't know anything. So
guys, if you didn't see this thing, he's doing question and answer. It's very interesting on yoga, but then a lot of people started asking a lot of questions about, well, if I can't do yoga, can I do stretching? At one point, you just went, I don't know, just walk around the block, sweat a little bit. I was on the floor. I was rolling. First of all, you didn't know half the things
I tell
I was
people,
saying.
look, I tell people all the time in the question and answer session, I say, look, I'm not the Orthodox answer man. I don't know the answers to everything. And people always come up with all kinds of answers. I'm like, I'm not that person. I know a few things.
It got dicey when someone asks you if they could do CrossFit, and you're like, I don't know what that is. And I was laughing so hard. I was like,
CrossFit.
Yeah. CrossFit.
I still don't know what it is.
It's a thing. It's a type of exercise. It's not yoga. I wanted the questions to go on for another half hour. Guys, go back and check it out. It's awesome. It's like, well, what about if I run fast and breathe in a certain way? And I was like, oh God. I was like, oh, look, it's Father Peter Trainer Heers. It was awesome. Because I know you, and my guess is you weren't out doing CrossFit.
I don't do any training whatsoever.
Exactly.
I'm literally like stationary.
Father Peter breathes heavy Heers. Father Peter breathes heavily Heers. All right. Here's a question.
All right.
What about your wife? What about presbytera? How's she doing with all this? You don't have to go on and on because I know you're private, but does she know that?
By the way, I got allergies really bad, so that's why I'm doing this all the time. Forgive me.
Or you're just crying?
Yeah, I'm just weeping because I'm partly weeping because you make me laugh, and that's I weep.
By the way, is joking okay with you? Are you a joker? You don't really like joking.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm laughing my head off here. With you're basically my comic relief moment. I need to speak to you at least once a week, because if I don't, life is boring. But
you know my number.
Yeah,
call me up. I could use more of you in my life. The guys on my team are like,
we need each other, and that's a beautiful thing, because there was a time when we didn't like each other, like back 30 years ago. But now it's wonderful.
That's a fact. You got punched in the face by one of my college friends. That happened.
What happened?
You got punched in the face by one of my college friends.
I did. I was a little brat, wasn't I? I don't remember why.
You, dude. You're just like bringing it. You're bringing it. And he was like, well, I think I'm just going to punch this little kid in the face. And he did.
Why was I even there? This was at your college in Wisconsin, right?
It was you were coming down to. I was living in Arizona before I went to Africa, and you were coming to enjoy the sun, and so was my buddy, and you were making the sun less enjoyable for him.
Yeah. I was annoying. I'm sure it was.
Well, he's annoying too.
But man, I was like, what, 15 or something at that point?
Yeah, you're probably 16. Yeah. But that dude. And I love him. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He's cantankerous. So it was a battle. It was like a Godzilla Mothra battle. It was great. Sorry.
Anyway,
popular reference. I saw your face like, I don't know what that is. But
no, I don't know what that is.
How's Godzilla, your wife?
But the other one.
How's presbytera? She handling all of this?
She's the rock of the family. She's the one. And everything she in this whole thing that's going on for the last year and a half, she's takes refuge at the monastery, at the tomb of Elder Ephraim, and she believes that through his intercessions everything's going to come out okay. And I think she would want me to say this. Actually, it was the Elder Ephraim who said we're going to come to America. He's the one who told us to come to America when we were in Greece, and he said in 2000 and whatever it was 8, he said you're going to come. And by the will of God, everything will be arranged for you here in God's time. And over time, we've realized that these words were not chosen. None of the elders' words were chosen. Like he just talked. Everything had meaning. Everything he said had meaning. And I've been told that by many, many people, and elders and abbots have said every word he chose had a meaning and oftentimes prophetic. And so we see those words coming about because, the will of God here is clearly, it's in his hands. I mean, it's not our will. Like I never wanted to leave ROCOR. It wasn't my will. My will was cut, and it's been cut for the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. So it's truly in his hands. And so the elder, since he invited us and told us to come, and he has been protecting us both in this, till his repose and to this day, we don't really worry that much. I mean, sure, we have that human, like, what's going to happen? How are we going to do this? We're trying to basically not get in the way. That's the main thing we try to do, is not get in the way, make sure we're not doing something that's going to cause scandal or cause problems or whatever. But basically, we're just it's God's will. He's going to have to take
she's
care
good,
of all this,
and so she understands
and she's
it
fine.
that way.
Yeah, and that's what makes her, makes everything fine, because she goes and she unloads her prayers to the tomb of the elder, and then we're good.
Good. And the kids, do you think of your kids as Greek Americans or Americans who were raised in Greece? Well, your kids are wacky. I mean, look, I love them, but they're kind of really between worlds, because even when they came to America, it's not like they lived in like near the Mall of America and hung out and, went to movies. Like,
no, no, they are in between two worlds in a big way. And because in Greece, they had a very, I don't know how to say it, very immersed experience of Orthodoxy. Like, we were, constantly around serious people, like serious monks, serious professors, and they grew up in this serious, heavy, not very light, heavy atmosphere, and so they
had a lot of high scores, a lot of guys hanging around with really high scores on the Lidometer, like 15s.
I mean, we would have events at our house with like 4 professors from the university and 2 abbots from Mount Athos. It's like oh.
And Panagiotis is like, dude, where's the video game? What is happening?
Right, exactly. Like, some of the kids are like, okay, this is enough. I'm done. I went out. This is too heady. But anyway,
you're like, this is so cool. Look, guys, he's talking about theosis. They're like 7 going.
He loves you, by the way. I think he needs to spend some time with you. He needs to come and hang out.
Panagiotis? He's my boy now. I think he's doing it.
He's actually doing really well, by the way.
Thank God. Man. Yeah,
he's the man. So anyway, they love Orthodox, like, romanity. Like, that is my brother, especially Gregory. He's on Athos right now. He just got off Athos yesterday.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's in Greece finishing up his theological studies there. He was just there for the vigil of St. George on Mount Athos, and so they love that, and so they don't love this 21st century America. That they're here because of the church, they're here because of the monasteries, they're here because of the church work here, and that's exactly how we are. Like, Presbytera and I are not here because we're in love with most of the American culture, but we're in love with Americans. We love the American spirit. We love the American desire and the missionary setting that has drawn us to America.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that the kind of base course, whatever you want to call it, like, materialistic American reality is not, it's like, that's far away. Even in America, we're like, where is that? We don't really have any kind of contact with that. We're very close to the
Why don't you share with us, though, something you left out?
Uh-oh.
You came here because you love Chili's, the restaurant. That's why you're here.
Well, okay, Olive Garden, but I don't. Chili's is okay. I do love Olive Garden.
Deep down, you're like, honey, I just can't do it. I can't move back because
there's aspects, like Amazon was definitely got rich off us the last couple of years. I mean, there's aspects of America that we do enjoy.
When you go to Walmart, are you like, I want to stay longer? I have an alarm that goes off. I'm not kidding.
We have a debate, actually. We have a debate. I say, let's shop at Safeway and let's not go to Walmart. But then usually the Walmart wins out because that's also got the kids section or whatever, right?
But don't ever bring your kid in there. What are you doing?
It's
if you bring your kid in there, I got to get out of Walmart. I can't stay. Alarm goes off. My head starts. I can't remember what I'm supposed to buy. I guess once I ran out of Walmart, I dropped the stuff and just ran. I felt like something was going to explode.
Walmart is America, man. You're un-American if you run out of Walmart.
I'm openly not endorsing Walmart, even if they were to sponsor my podcast. Well, maybe we could talk then. But is it true that you failed Spanish class in high school? Just say it. We'll move on from it.
Fast. I think you got that wrong. I think it was English, actually. I remember the English professor was threatening to fail me. But
there was one professor that you literally told me, I'm not doing that work. On principle.
That was in English. I didn't like the teacher at the time. I was very connected to teachers. If teachers were cool and lovable, I was doing well in the class.
I remember literally in high school hearing about you while I was in college that you would get A's and F's and nothing in between. I'd be like, that's just weird.
Yeah,
fact.
That's true. D's, maybe I did get an F. I don't remember. Yeah, I probably failed a couple. I don't remember. Maybe I shut that out because I don't want to think that I actually got an F. But it's true.
You should be proud of a couple F's. Some of the classes you're taking, you should get an F. I think that's probably the point of it. But I don't tell my kids that.
Well, I did not like certain teachers because there were some teachers I loved. Like this one teacher.
Were you a conservative kid in high school? Like, was that it? Did you even know yourself that way? I don't remember you thinking like that.
No, I did not. I've never been like super attached to either a conservative or liberal label. Never.
You weren't like a young Republican with a red tie?
No, never. No. No, I just was interested in truth and issues. And I didn't care if it was a Republican or Democrat, I could care less.
The best is you would have like really good friends. And then I remember when you just like wouldn't have them anymore. You're like, yeah, I'm done with that kid. Because he didn't say he's not being truthful. The end. Cancel. Here's a question.
You probably remember more than I do. My memory of those days was very sparse. I don't know why, but I
remember you tried to play basketball with me and you thought you were better. That was a fail blog.
I was better than you. If we were the same age, I would have beat you every time, man.
That is an untrue statement. And you said you like truth.
It's only because you were 5 years older than me.
No, I was highly coordinated and very athletic.
I loved basketball. I played endless hours as a stupid California boy who had nothing better to do.
You did. Here's a question. We're getting toward the end because my producers, like I got a lot of them. My producers have 7 other jobs. Like they're not really producers. They're awesome, Daniel and Andrew. They said I can't go so long, but they said with interviews I can go long.
Why don't you do a long one and then cut it up into pieces? That's
maybe we'll do Father Peter part 1, Father Peter part 2. And part 2 is just dumb questions like this one. You ready? You got one meal. You got to eat it for, I don't know, 3 straight weeks. It's the meal that you just got to deal with this meal. This is your meal. It's the only meal. And it's not the Eucharist. I know you're going to say the Eucharist. I get that. Don't say the Eucharist. This is like a regular homie question. What's the meal? What meal are you going to eat?
You're not going to like the answer. It's really boring.
What is it? What's your meal? What's your favorite meal?
It's actually going to be like a coffee and an energy bar.
You're kidding. What kind of human are you? Oh Lord. How are you
the
married?
next thing would be a soup that I can make in 40 seconds or something. Like that would be the next.
So food is you're just moving on. That's basically what's happening.
I basically eat to have energy.
You know, your mother was a gourmet cook.
I know, it's weird. When I eat good food, I'll say this. Oh, salmon. I love salmon. That's true.
Salmon?
I do love salmon. Salmon. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're laughing at my.
I guess someone who doesn't eat meat in the tradition probably must like salmon.
I love fish. Yeah, I do love fish. I always loved shrimp. Even before, I was a kid, I loved shrimp. So I guess maybe shrimp would be the thing, or salmon, or salad and shrimp, something like that. Yeah, I want something.
But you don't eat meat, right? You don't eat flesh. The flesh meats.
Yeah. Let's just say I don't.
Oh, sorry. Should I who knew that was hallowed ground? I didn't know I shouldn't go there.
Yeah, we probably want to take that out.
All right, cut that.
Producers need to take that out.
Well, I'm not cutting. I eat pork, and if I can eat pork, I'll eat it. A lot of it. All right, here's a question, a real one. How does America become more Orthodox?
Yeah.
Do you care about that question?
Which question?
How does America become Orthodox or more Orthodox? Is that even a thing? Is that just a dumb question, or do you think about that?
Well, it depends what you mean by America. I mean, America as a entity is not going to become Orthodox in my estimation. It's going to have to cease to be. It's going to have to cease to be before it can become Orthodox. But Americans absolutely can and many will become Orthodox. And I think that the trend is that you're going to see implosion in many places, and it's already happening. I mean, Episcopalians have imploded, and a lot of other people are just like, the ship has been, it's shipwreck, and they're on pieces of wood, and they're looking for, some kind of salvation at this point.
And do you mean
I
that
think if Orthodoxy doesn't follow that trend among certain leadership that's so interested in identifying with heterodoxy, then it's almost like we don't have to do anything. We just need to be Orthodox, just stay the course. And there's going to be tons of Americans becoming Orthodox. But America is antithetical to Orthodoxy. It's never been a Christian country. It was founded on anti-Christian ideals of the Enlightenment, and it's delusional for people to think that America is ever a Christian country as an entity, as a philosophy, as an ideology. Now, there are many, many, many good Christian people, small c, seeking Christ in America, and that's a wonderful thing. And the church needs to reach out to those people.
So I see what you're saying. Yeah, people climb into the ark. We don't have to do anything.
It's just the problem has always been internal. The church is always, warring against internal betrayal again and again and again throughout church history. It's not an external problem. It's not what they're doing outside. That's not our problem. It's never been our problem. It's like persecution makes us grow. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Anything that happens against the church outside is ultimately not our problem. It's God allowing it for whatever reason for the good of the church, ultimately. The problem is the betrayal of those who are in the church, of the church. That has been the problem again and again and again, from Judas through the Arians, to the iconoclasts, to the false unions with Rome, through the, Sergianism and ecumenism, all these isms that are undermining the identity of the church. Right. That's always the problem. That's the problem today. So if we just can keep that at bay or defeat it, then the church will shine, because the church is the saints. The saints of the church. Par excellence, the church is found in the saints. And that's why I constantly talk about reading the lives of the saints, because that's going to make us better Orthodox, and it's going to draw people to Orthodoxy, because who's not going to want to follow the lives of the saints and be like them? Like, it's going to be a rare person who says, I'm not interested.
That doesn't make you a rigorist because you follow the saints? Is your phone going off a lot? Or is that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I thought I turned everything off, but it's still going on.
I feel like you don't know how to turn everything off. Do you guys watching this are like, if he tried to turn everything off?
That's true. And that's why we don't talk about that. So yeah, I'm trying. Anyway,
also, I feel like you have like 6 keyboard people that help you, and someone who directs
I have 3 devices in front of me right now. That's a fortunate reality.
Your brain is weird.
I'm getting tired. I have tinnitus in a big way in the last year and a half. You know what that is?
Yeah, your ear rings.
Oh yeah, right now it's ringing like it's like there's an alarm going off in the background.
Right now when we're talking.
Yeah, and all morning. And during the divine service this morning, I was trying to pray, and I got this tonight. I don't know what to do about it, because they don't say it's a cure. There's no cure for it.
Do you know that they say that one of the symptoms of the shot is tinnitus?
No, I never heard that.
That's because I just made it up.
You just made it up. That's true. What were we talking about? We got off topic.
No, you were talking about America and Orthodoxy. I find this interesting. I wonder, here's I'm a historian of sorts. I studied it. And we tend to be taught as modern historians to think of things as linear, with bends up or down. And I find that Orthodox historiography can't be really done this way. But if I were to throw this question to you anyway, do you think 2023 is more like Antichrist than 1023? Do you think you can think of history that way, or is that an incorrect way to see it?
More Antichrist. That's a good question. I think that what we're going to see is that, I mean, there's a big question. You can't really answer it with a 20-second soundbite.
Sure.
But on the one hand, the Apostle John says that the spirit of Antichrist, and there are already Antichrists at the time of the apostles. So the presence of the spirit of Antichrist is 2,000 years. It's 2,000 years. It's nothing new. Mm-hmm. And it's the rejection of the theanthropic nature of Jesus Christ and his body, the church. But we know also that although it ebbs and flows, and there's a cyclical nature of history, and it's a linear but cyclical. So you're repeating times of of persecution and rise of Antichrist. And of course, the devil's trying to always introduce an Antichrist.
It's like a spiral, right? It feels like it's a return, but it's not quite a return. It's still on a path toward an end, but it has series of near repetitions, right?
So I would say the time of the 20s in Russia or in the Soviet period was a kind of time of Antichrist. And many of the saints thought that this was the end. I mean, the Antichrist is present because it was so strongly, that spirit of Antichrist, of going against the church and the Lord. So, but obviously it's cyclical, and there will be an end, though. So we are going to the end of history, and so it will grow. It will grow at the end. There will be more and more of it, but it's according to the saints and the contemporary elders that I read and talk to. We're not in the imminent rise of Antichrist. We're still in a period of ebb and flow, but it will continue to rise. But there will also be a rise of the church again. There will be a mission of the church again. And so I would say yes and no. I mean, it depends. Yes, I think 2024, 25, I think 25, there's a lot of people who are speculating there's going to be more movement, if not an attempt at a union with Rome. There's more movement toward that, and there's more activity. It's kind of going to be growing and growing and growing. So there's signs of that already. And so that is a kind of apostasy from Orthodoxy. Mm-hmm. And so it lends itself to the spirit of the world and the spirit of Antichrist. And you see with the rise of transhumanism, you see with the rise of globalism, these are all trends that point to fulfillment of the prophecies about the Antichrist. Now, nobody knows how long that is, though. No, the Lord said clearly, we don't know the time. And the reason why we don't know the time, according to some church fathers, is because when people repent, the time gets pushed back. So in a way, it's in the hands of the Christians and those who are seeking Christ. How much we're repenting and coming back to Christ and returning, it's in our hands whether we usher in the time of Antichrist, the final time of Antichrist, or whether we push it back.
I hadn't heard that.
The more rights to the enemy, the more freedom he has to work in the world, and the more critical mass that he looks for in order to fulfill a kind of global rule, which is what's prophesied about the Antichrist. So it's a mystical, time. The time is mysterious, and no one can really pin it down. But there are many signs.
Do you think you're in? All right, don't get mad at me. Do you think you're an agent of fear when it comes to this? Do you think you rile people up to think it's next week Tuesday? Next week Tuesday is the end.
If the Apostle John was an agent of fear when he wrote in his epistle 2,000 years ago, there are many antichrists even now, then I guess I'm also an agent of fear. I'm not saying anything different than what the saints have said. And I would say that the more often the people who don't want to talk about it are people who can't deal with it, or they don't want to deal with it, or they have this idea that we don't deal with it in the Orthodox Church, which is nonsense. We do deal with it. There's nothing we don't deal with in the Orthodox Church. We're not afraid of anything. The church fathers talk about everything. Saint Cyril talks about it in his catechism to non-Orthodox. He talks about the Antichrist.
It's one reason I became Orthodox is because, again, no offense, we've talked about our loving parents, but they dropped a few balls there. There are a few things we don't talk about that. I was like, what about what's happening to me and women, for example? How come we haven't talked about that at all? But then I met my spiritual father. He was like, sit down, I'll tell you about it. And then it was like, oh, this was helpful.
Yes.
I love that about, it's all on the table. There's not a Puritan strain in there. I really love that.
No. Right. Why not? What is this? We have one life. It's going fast.
There's a cool thing that we've nailed down happening down in Florida. We're going to do a culinary event called the Art of the Tamada, where we're teaching the traditions of the Georgian table, the one that you went to when you thought there wouldn't be wine. They're like, wait a minute, this guy again? There's a whole art to that. And we saved the date, and
but you gotta have a priest. If it's going to be real, you got to have a priest or a bishop there hosting.
Does it have to be you though? I'm working on a couple of Florida priests.
I wouldn't do well. You don't want me. You want a Georgian. You want the real thing.
You're like, hey, good toast to all those things. And also, all of you need to sit down. I've got a few things I want to say. And we're like, Father, is that a toast? No, I don't do that. I'm just going to talk for the next hour. Your food's going to get cold. And if you look down, I'm going to say, hey, I'm not done. Okay. I know you. I love you. No, but
do you remember after Dad's funeral? Remember that?
I'll never forget. I'm trying to do the table and you're like paying zero attention.
You were like, come on, Father Peter, it's your time to toast. I'm like, no.
You literally said, I don't do that. Okay. Quote, I don't do that.
It's like, man, the party's over with this guy.
You were like the ultimate party killer. I was like, this is how we're going to celebrate Papu's repose, with toasting into
you were right. I was wrong. I accept it.
Do you remember there was another priest there? You just turned to him, like you draped your cassock or whatever priests do. They put it over, crossed your legs and turned your back to me. I was the Tamada. And you just were having conversations. I was like, this guy's unbelievable.
People deal with these things differently. We can't all fit into the same.
I like your contrition
mold.
You are saying sorry. Did I hear you say that? Go ahead.
Yes, I am, but I'm also justifying myself for you.
All right. Save the date, November 16, 17, 18, 19. We're having a weekend where we teach the art of Tamada. We bring our chef down from our restaurant in Greenville, and we look at the spiritual meaning of hospitality as medicine. It's more of an incarnational thing, and we're trying to make meat out of the idea of relationship. We're just trying to make a relationship. But of course, when you sit at the Georgian table, you toast. And what are you toasting to? You're not just toasting to like, oh, my pair of jeans fit snugly. Gaugy Marjos, cheers. You're toasting to the eternal ideas. And so each night we're there, we're doing one of these Georgian feasts with the Georgian food. During the day, we're doing some boating, some sunning, or whatever you want to do, fishing. And toward the afternoon, we'll have a couple talks.
So you got Nicholas Kotar, you got Jonathan Pajot and Paul
Kingsnorth and Neil DeGrade, who's going to come down with his guitars and sit at the table. The tradition in Georgia is the performers sit with you. You don't really have a stage. They sit at the table and then grab their guitar and they sing the toast. So I wanted to put that out there for folks because I'm really excited about it. It'll be buttoned down and maybe you'll show up.
Yeah, I'll just show up, but then I'm not going to probably be able to afford the.
Watch this. Okay, then. Well, enjoy Arizona in November.
Well, yeah, I didn't hear any dollar amount. You're going to tell it?
I don't have one yet. Now you're putting me on the spot. I told you before we started I would not put you on the spot.
All right. So, you probably shouldn't have announced it if you didn't have it all.
I don't know. That's half the fun.
I always do that. I always announce things before I'm supposed to announce them because I'm excited about them.
Impatience. Yeah. Well, I got the confirmation from these guys. I hope that they're okay with me saying it.
I think it's great. What are the dates again? Tell me the dates.
November 17, 18, 19. Old calendar before the fast. Old calendar before the fast. New calendar the fast has started. We'll have non-fasting food. But it's not, I want to put this out because this is the first time I've ever talked about it. This isn't just for Orthodox people. It's not like that. I don't roll that way. So just to be aware. Yeah. The themes are about what is hospitality? What is medicine? Like, how does it work? How do we heal? So there's a lot of space in there. But these guys are Orthodox in nature. So that's how it's going to go.
And are you going to provide the comic relief?
Doing stand-up at 6, 8, and 11 each night. Same set over and over again.
Well, I mean, no, but seriously though, it's going to be also like enjoyable. It's not going to be like somber. Like
no, man.
Because the way you said it is like we're going to be toasting these really deep issues. And
no.
Well, so I just want to make sure people understand it's going to be a joyful, like wonderful, relaxing.
So a traditional toast is a toast to humor, and you tell stories about your life that are ridiculous, or you tell jokes. Another toast is to eros and the idea of finding your love. So there's it's fun. It's fun. It's Georgian, man. You were there. Those cats, they do the heavy things, but man, it's lightly. right?
Yeah, absolutely. We had toast at the table with the patriarch.
I know they're actually giving toast, right?
Oh yeah, that was and it was like 10 toasts. All the bishops basically did the toast. Most of them. There was like 6 bishops there along with the patriarch.
So there's just so you know, we're going to teach the mechanisms. So there's all these little rules. And once you learn them, they create vulnerability in the conversation, because the idea is to add to the theme. So if I were to toast you on, let's say, joy, then you would toast back and add to the idea of joy, maybe in your life or the life of your kids. Or the toast to children would ask you to. My job is to make a big, giant, beautiful, roiling poetic toast. And then the table's job is to add to the idea or the theme. This comes out of Socrates and the concept of the symposium in Greece. It starts there, and then
are the Georgians that deliberate? Like, you are very deliberate. It's very ritual, almost a ritual. Are the Georgians that deliberate, or is it mostly pretty just laid back?
Two things. There are professorial academic papers written about this in Georgia. They're deliberate. They know. No, it's in the blood. It's people know what to do. Like, for instance, if you stood up, I did a toast to family, and you wanted to toast, I don't know, to recently you got a new job. Fine. That's fine. The Georgians would be like, well, he should have done that one later. There's a toast coming to,
Right.
But nobody cares. It's not like you broke a rule.
Right.
Yeah. But they happen a lot. Also, I've seen 4 young men who've just played soccer sit down with a bottle, and then they elect a tamada. They elect a leader to do the toast. It's like 4 20-year-olds. And then they toast each other. It's really cool. Really cool.
No, I think it's an aspect of not just Georgian but Mediterranean life.
100%.
Not that formal. Sounds pretty formal, but certainly the table is the center where everything is, poured out.
Well, it's an image, an icon of the great feast.
Yeah,
of heaven.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and the Lord chose that precisely because it was already the center of society, right?
Think about that. We talk about that. We get blown away by that idea. Like, we're actually just doing the thing we're always supposed to be doing. But you have to do it soberly. I know that sounds odd, but you do it. What it means is your toast is intentional. It's not just coming up out of your bowels. By the way, bowels play an important role in your life. They move things, eros, but it's just not all eros. It's the connection of the eternal with the the eternally moving. So you want to connect the two in the heart. You don't want to leave. You don't want too much head. That's the heavy stuff. And you can't have too much bowels. You can't have too much eros, because that also gets out of control. So there's like chaos and order.
But that whole opposition is not real. That whole opposition is not real, because
if you combine it in the heart.
Yeah, that's the whole point, is that only the rationalist ends up opposing his mind to his heart or his emotions. I mean, so a real person is going to be holistic, and he's going to be offering everything in a heartfelt way. He's going to be thinking and living in a heartfelt way, right? That should be the way we live.
And when the table is proper, that's what happens. We just did a huge one on Saturday. There were 52 people in the restaurant all at one table. It was nuts. Ask people about it. And they didn't know each other.
Do you see people that are, getting closer to, like, coming to the restaurant looking for real life because they're searching? Or is it just like, oh, that's a great place to go and see both?
All right, I'll tell you the story. I won't put names. There was a couple at the table that had driven about 5 hours down from North Carolina. We're in South Carolina. He had listened to the podcast. He is ortho curious. She's totally secular, had no idea about but he's starting to say, I want to do something. So what did they do that weekend? They drove down and hung out at our restaurant, got a hotel, and came in and wanted to be a part of it and find out more about his search. And she was like, this was fun. Like, come to our house and do one up in North Carolina. So those are, real, quote, seekers. But we don't approach the table. We have tamadas that aren't Orthodox at the restaurant. And we don't approach the table as missionaries. That's super obnoxious.
That would ruin it. Of course. I don't understand. I'm just curious if out of this, people are going deeper in search for meaning.
Oh, it's happening. This is why you have 450,000 people following you. No offense. It's not, you're not doing it. It's being done for people like you. It's already happening. It's just the question of totally. Where you're going to plug into the fungus chain, to the mushroom chain. It's already underneath us. It's happening.
Yeah.
And I think the restaurant just says, well, let's try to do Georgia or Orthodox hospitality a proper way, and people respond. It's crazy what's happening right now.
Do people connect it to Orthodoxy at all, or is it just kind of
we sang Angel Cried.
Oh, nice.
And people are like, that was pretty. And then some know what it is, some don't know what it is, but it's Georgian music. I'm not lying when I say that.
Yeah. So, well, certainly, I would think that in Georgia, just like in Greece, all kinds of hymnographies seeped into the culture, and people chant
for sure
hymns from church.
Check this out, Brother Peter. Gagi Marjos. That's cheers. Gagi Marjos means to you the victory. The implication, the context in Georgia is to you the victory over death. So you're greeting each other with essentially resurrection, which is,
it totally makes sense. I mean, it's like, of course, like,
well, you know this because that's how Greece is, or Greece was, or Greece might be.
Well, there's a Greece within Greece. There always will be. I mean, maybe percentage-wise, it's declined because of the Europeanization of Greece, but it'll never be lost.
Right. That's how the Georgians feel. Georgia's got the same issue. There's like half old school, half new school. It's happening everywhere.
And in the church, the same thing. You've got hierarchs and theologians who really they're just dying to go to the West and be Western. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's others who are saying, "Over my dead body."
Yeah.
So
I think
the way it is.
But I think we've both been blessed in our lives to, I don't know, see these things. So I like that we share.
An FTFOE common event somewhere. Like, we got to think about something in the future where
I would love to do that. That would mean fewer and fewer priests would talk to me. I'm like, hey, I'm John, and they're like, oh, John, what's your last name? I'm John. John, you might know me as John in the future. I'm John. They're like, no, but what's your last name? So I'm John. My middle name is Stewart. Anything else you'd like to know about me? I'm John Stewart. They're like, wait, you look like a guy I know. I get this a lot. You sound like, are you Father Peter's brother? I'm like, my name is John. I'll be over here eating some food at your trapeza. It is wacky, man. It's super wacky when I travel.
You mean I'm not your like, key that opens the door to like endless priests,
So it's a super 50-50. What happens is the priests are usually like, oh, John Heers, and then their eyes like do this weird thing. They're like, oh. And then they're like, please come in and eat. And then I'll sit down. And then there's, like I said, here come the ortho bros. And then it's awesome. So it's usually that both things happen at the same time, but nobody is mean. And usually people are very thankful for your work. Usually. Yeah. I mean that with my whole heart.
Well, I think you have to be the bridge. I want to talk to these priests. Like, let's talk. Let's sit down. I'm not your enemy. Why do you hate me? I love you.
By the way, I give them your number. Sorry, but I actually give people. I say I can't answer this question. Here, take his number.
Yeah, I won't mention a name, but a priest who I actually spoke at his church about. You were there actually about 10 years ago, 8 years ago. He said privately to somebody a couple of days ago, I can't even be associated with him because, and I said to the lady, just tell him, let's talk. And that's been my response always.
Let's do
Unfortunately, for up to this day, it's not accepted. I don't know. It's unfortunate, but I hope it does.
I'll say this to you as your mean older brother. Your phone goes that way too. Call him up.
Yeah, you're right. I should
call him up. I love you. I thank you for doing this. It's a big deal.
It's
a
good.
big deal.
I think we need to have this because we need to see each other as brothers and sisters in Christ and not as whatever, ideologically opposed or whatever people think. It's not.
I mean. And I'll keep doing it and you keep doing it. I know you do it. I hear a lot of things about you that what happens is I know that's not true because it's not like you. Like, I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound right. Like, maybe that got interpreted that way, but it's not like that. And I hope when you hear that I'm like a devil heretic who like does yoga, please stop those people.
Well, wait a minute. I thought weren't you a Satanist?
Oh, that's right. Remember when some cats, they were like, your brother's a Satanist. I'm like, no, I just had Uncle Seth on. Uncle Seth might be a Satanist, but I'm not a Satanist.
Oh my Lord. The kind of stuff you hear online is amazing. It's amazing. I don't know what to say.
By the way, have you met my buddy Seth, who comes on the show and just spouts? I want to make a pitch out for all of you who are listening. This is a long podcast. We got to hang up now. Go look at some Uncle Seth episodes. You'll like him. He's my dearest friend, secular guy who takes on Orthodox ideas that I spout, that I give to him, and he just says why they're ridiculous. And it's very interesting. So,
and then you say what?
I say, I yell back at him, but we never yell. We always end. We love each other. And I think people really like to watch that. They like to watch people who can love and also disagree. And I know you. That's who you are. So,
well, and you'll find in the history of the church and the lives of the saints, you'll find examples of people who, took them like 40 years to like come around to the idea of Christ. I mean, we don't.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of Seth's journey.
It's our job to present, to be Christians. I mean, God's not expecting us to. We need to be open and just talk and share. And it's not, we don't have to like predetermine things. It's like, you know what I mean?
I love it. It's a good note to end on.
You know that people always want to pigeonhole me as a rigorist or
you think?
Or a, what are the other ones? Like I identify with like the far right and,
I have friends who've told me you're in GOC right now. I was like, I don't think so. I don't think that happened.
Yeah, how does that happen when I've got like 4 videos that talk about the dangers of the ecclesiology of the GOC and how I think it's not patristic?
Why would I teach a lesson to high schoolers on Ben Franklin and then they were done and they thought they were hearing a lesson about like, I don't know, like Thomas Jefferson? Why did they get it totally wrong? They're not paying attention.
Not paying attention, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don, it was good. Thanks for having me on.
Love you. There it was, www.first-things.org. That's where you can go find out a ton of stuff about this podcast, this work we do, and also about the Lidometer Test. Check us out. And most of all, jam to that music as it leaves us. That's brand new music from Greg Gilbertson and his crew, who wrote that especially for our show. WAWTAR, see you soon with another interview edition and or a continuation of our talks in our new studio with our new music and my new hat, the Milwaukee Brewers, that I put on to honor my mother for this show, who was raised in Watertown, Wisconsin, where I knew my brother as a crazy person. That's the end of this show. See you soon. Gagi Marjos.